I decided to go on vacation and booked my accommodation through Airbnb. The pictures and description of the place looked perfect and I was full of expectations for my stay. Upon arrival, I found the house to be in a quiet and secluded location. The exterior of the house looked exactly like the photos, but something didn't seem right. Once inside, I noticed a strange odor that filled the entire house. I initially thought it was just a sewage problem and tried to ignore it. However, as I started looking around, it became obvious that the house was not properly prepared for guests. Everything was abandoned and dusty. The furniture was covered in cobwebs and almost all the windows were draped with heavy curtains, making the house dark and ominous. As I was trying to figure out what was going on, I heard a sound coming from deep inside the house. It was a faint but distinct rustle, as if someone was pacing the floor in another room. My heart pounded harder, and I felt cold sweat pour down my body. I decided to check the source of the rustling and moved cautiously through the house. Each step felt heavy and slow, like someone was dragging me down. As I approached the room, the rustling grew louder and I felt the presence of someone nearby. I opened the door and my eyes saw an eerie sight. The room was filled with antique dolls lined up in strange poses. Their eyes followed me as if alive. And the air was filled with an unpleasant aura. The dolls were dressed in old-fashioned outfits, and their faces looked disfigured and distorted. They seemed to come alive with every passing second, as if their unholy energy was filling the room. Their crooked smiles and dark, empty eye impressions gave them a grim and threatening appearance. Even though I realized they were only puppets, their presence caused me indescribable terror. I felt that they were watching me, studying my every movement, my every thought. Their motionless postures seemed like some kind of eerie warning. Every step I took in that room seemed heavy and slow. Time seemed to slow down, and I was sinking deeper and deeper into this atmosphere of terror. Although I tried to remain calm, my heart beat harder and the trepidation inside me grew. Fear made me shiver, but I was determined. I must get out of this nightmare. Opening the door, I left this room, leaving behind those scary dolls and the unpleasant energy that overwhelmed the room. I rushed towards the exit, feeling like I was being chased, and I had no time to think. I overcame all obstacles, jumped out of the house and ran until I reached the car. After this terrifying experience, I decided to share my story with others to warn them about this scary place. I contacted Airbnb and complained about the conditions of the stay, and they were able to refund my money. Since then, I no longer book accommodation through Airbnb, and my dreams are still haunted by dark rooms filled with sinister dolls and an elusive presence. I decided to go on vacation and booked a cozy apartment through Airbnb. I didn't expect it to turn into a real nightmare. Upon arrival, I was greeted by a friendly host who showed me my room and left me alone with my thoughts. The apartment looked ordinary and cozy, but right from the start something seemed off. The first night when I went to bed, I started hearing quiet rustles and vague noises from other rooms. My heart beat faster, but I figured it was just my nerves playing tricks on me. As the day went on, the strangeness became more and more apparent. I felt the presence of an invisible force watching me, as if my actions were under scrutiny. I began to notice that my belongings sometimes moved an incomprehensible distance, and some of them disappeared altogether. Nights were the scariest part. I could hear footsteps in the hallway and on the creaking stairs, even though I knew I was alone in the apartment. My dreams were riddled with nightmares full of sinister creatures and unbelievable horrors. I would wake up in a cold sweat, shaking with terror. I decided to tell my host about the strange occurrences, but when I tried to find him, he disappeared. His phone number was unavailable and none of the neighbors knew where he might have gone. I felt completely abandoned and alone in this mysterious apartment. One day, I decided to do my own investigation. I started exploring the rooms, going through old things and examining every corner. During this process, I discovered a hidden door leading to the basement. Stumbling upon it, I couldn't contain my curiosity and decided to go downstairs. The basement turned out to be gloomy and filled with old things. I continued exploring when suddenly I heard muffled footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw a figure in the darkness, twisted and contorted. Fear gripped me and I rushed towards the exit, but something grabbed my leg and I fell, losing consciousness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. The doctors explained to me that I had been found unconscious in the basement of the apartment. No one could explain what had happened or who was the creature I had seen. Since then,